Breaking. Prince William just broke 40 years of royal silence with 7 words about Keir Starmer that nobody saw coming. Within 2 hours, Parliament burst into complete chaos. 3 cabinet ministers have already quit, and what happens in the next 72 hours could ruin Labour forever. If you want to see how this huge constitutional fight ends, hit that subscribe button right now because the mainstream media won't tell you what's really happening inside the palace walls. Here's what started the most dangerous royal action in modern British history. Yesterday at 3:47 p.m., Prince William went to what was supposed to be a simple veterans charity event at Chelsea Barracks. Standard protocol: shake hands, give a short speech, pose for photos. But William wasn't there to follow protocol. He was there to send a message that would shock Westminster to its core. His words were calm but absolutely devastating. When those who gave everything for this nation are forgotten, while others are given priority, something important has broken in our social contract. 7 seconds of silence followed. Then the room exploded into clapping that lasted 3 full minutes. But Starmer wasn't clapping. Sources say he was already on the phone with palace officials demanding an explanation. Within the hour, Downing Street went into full crisis mode. It started when leaked Home Office papers showed the shocking truth about Starmer's immigration policy. We're talking about 47,000 asylum seekers getting emergency housing in 4-star hotels across Britain, while 89,000 military veterans stay on council housing waiting lists. The difference is so brutal, so totally impossible to defend that even lifelong Labour supporters are switching sides. Margaret Collins, a 71-year-old nurse from Birmingham who voted Labour her whole life, told BBC Radio this morning, "I heard the Blitz stories from my mother. I lived through the winters of discontent, but I cannot handle watching men who fought for Britain sleep on the streets while illegal immigrants get hotel rooms with full service." That interview has been shared 1.8 million times in 6 hours. The optics are absolutely terrible for Starmer. But here's where it gets really interesting. William didn't stop with one speech. At 6:15 p.m., he did something never done before. He went to a veterans' homeless shelter in South London. No media announcement, no palace photographers, just William, 2 protection officers, and 34 homeless former soldiers who couldn't believe their eyes. What he said there, recorded on mobile phones by shocked staff members, is even more explosive. "You served this country with honor. You deserve better than this. And I promise you, your voices will be heard at the highest levels." Those words, spoken quietly but filmed on shaky video, have gone viral. 12 million views by midnight. The message was clear. Prince William just publicly went against government policy, and Starmer knows exactly what that means. Meanwhile, British veterans who served in Iraq, Afghanistan, the Falklands, and Northern Ireland are being completely ignored by the very government that sent them to war. Colonel James Hartford, retired from the Parachute Regiment, lost his council flat 3 months ago after 28 years of service. He's been sleeping in his car outside the Aldershot garrison where he once led 400 men. "I fought for this country in Helmand Province," he told the Telegraph yesterday. "I watched my best friend die saving 3 Afghan civilians, and now I'm homeless while people who came into this country illegally get 4-star accommodation." His story isn't rare. A Ministry of Defense report leaked to the Times shows 12,000 veterans are currently homeless. Another 34,000 are in temporary housing or staying with family. Many struggle with PTSD, physical injuries, and mental health problems that make working almost impossible. Sergeant David Morrison, who lost both legs in Basra, spent 4 months living in a tent in his brother's yard while waiting for adapted housing. His application sat in a council office gathering dust while asylum seekers were approved within weeks. Sarah Wilkins, widow of Lance Corporal Michael Wilkins, who died in Afghanistan, was forced out of military housing 6 months after her husband's death. She now lives in a tiny 1-bedroom flat with her 3 children, struggling to pay rent on her widow's pension. These aren't statistics. These are real people who gave everything for Britain and got nothing back. The government promised them priority housing under the Armed Forces Covenant Act 2011. That promise has been repeatedly broken under Starmer's leadership. Freedom of Information requests show that only 23% of homeless veteran applications receive council housing within the legally required 12-month period. The rest are still waiting, still hurting, still abandoned by the system they defended. While Labour ministers enjoy taxpayer-funded second homes worth millions, we're talking about Angela Rayner's £650,000 property portfolio, Rachel Reeves' Grace and Favour accommodation, David Lammy's luxury ministerial residence. The difference is so huge, so morally shocking that even moderate voters are demanding answers. And Prince William just put that difference on national television for all to see. Then something happened that nobody expected, and it changes everything. King Charles, who stayed carefully neutral through Starmer's first year in office, called an emergency meeting at Buckingham Palace at 9:30 p.m. last night. Present were Prince William, Queen Camilla, 3 senior palace advisors, and General Sir Patrick Sanders, former chief of the defense staff. What they talked about officially remains private under royal privilege, but palace insiders speaking on the condition of anonymity paint a shocking picture. His Majesty was absolutely furious. One senior aide told the Sunday Times this morning, "I've served the crown for 23 years, and I've never seen him like this." He believes the social contract between Britain's institutions and her veterans has been betrayed. The King's words, according to many sources, were very clear. William is right to speak. If the government won't protect those who protected us, then the monarchy must remind them of their duty. That's a constitutional earthquake. The Crown does not challenge elected governments. It hasn't happened since 1936, but Charles just allowed his son and heir to do exactly that. Palace constitutional experts say this breaks 89 years of tradition. The optics for Starmer are beyond terrible. He's not just facing the opposition anymore. He's facing the monarchy itself. The fallout hit like a tsunami within minutes of William's shelter visit going viral. By midnight, the pound sterling had dropped 1.2% against the dollar as markets panicked about constitutional instability. £18 billion wiped from the FTSE 100 in overnight trading. International investors hate uncertainty, and Britain just became the most uncertain democracy in the developed world. #DefendOurVeterans hit #1 globally on Twitter, trending in 47 countries with over 3.2 million tweets in 8 hours. TikTok videos comparing homeless veterans to hotel-housed migrants have been watched 89 million times since yesterday evening. Facebook groups calling for Starmer's resignation have gained 400,000 members since William spoke. This isn't just a political crisis anymore. It's a cultural earthquake splitting Britain straight down the middle. Inside Labour headquarters, the panic is total. 47 Labour MPs have now publicly rebelled. 16 are demanding an emergency debate on veterans' housing. 8 are calling for a vote of no confidence. 3 have already quit junior ministerial positions. Former Defense Secretary John Healey, pushed out by Starmer 6 months ago, gave a harsh interview to Sky News at midnight. "I warned the Prime Minister this policy would blow up in his face. He called me a dinosaur and kicked me out. Well, the dinosaur was right, and he's finished." Protests erupted across 12 British cities within hours. Manchester, Birmingham, Liverpool, Newcastle, Glasgow all saw thousands marching with Union Jacks and banners saying veterans before illegals and Starmer must go. In Leeds, a crowd estimated at 8,000 surrounded Labour Party headquarters, chanting William's name. West Yorkshire police called it the biggest sudden demonstration they'd seen in 15 years. This isn't organized political opposition. This is real public anger. Inside number 10 Downing Street, witnesses describe a situation of complete meltdown. Starmer called an emergency cabinet meeting at 11 p.m. that turned into shouting matches within minutes. Transport Secretary Louise Hay supposedly yelled at Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, accusing her of leaking negative stories to prepare her own leadership run. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper sat in cold silence, refusing to defend the immigration policy she is legally responsible for carrying out. Chancellor Rachel Reeves was heard telling Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson, "He's lost the public, he's lost the party, and now he's lost the whole royal family." That quote, leaked to The Guardian by 2 a.m., shows how alone Starmer has become. WhatsApp groups among Labour MPs with names like Post Start Planning and Reset 2025 are openly discussing new leadership candidates. The question isn't if they'll move against him, but how soon they can do it without destroying what's left of Labour's credibility. Angela Rayner has already held 3 separate meetings with party donors and union leaders in the past 24 hours. Rachel Reeves met privately with 15 backbench MPs this morning over breakfast at a Westminster hotel. Even shadow cabinet members who publicly defend Starmer are privately preparing for him to fall. One senior Labour MP told Politico, "We're watching a slow-motion car crash and nobody can stop it." William just wrote Starmer's political obituary. But wait, because there's another level to this cabinet disaster that makes everything even worse. Defense Minister James Cartledge was said to be so angry during last night's meeting that he threw his briefing papers across the table. Several witnesses confirm he shouted, "We send these men to war and then treat them like garbage. How do you expect me to defend this?" Cartledge stormed out before the meeting ended and hasn't been seen at Westminster since. His office refuses to confirm where he is. That's a serving defense minister basically going missing during the worst veterans crisis in modern British history. Environment Secretary Steve Reed was seen leaving Number 10 at 1:30 a.m. looking, in the words of one Sky News reporter, absolutely shattered. He refused all questions, got into his ministerial car, and sources say he went straight to his constituency office in South London instead of going home. Why? Insiders say he's meeting with local Labour Party officials who are threatening to remove him as a candidate if he doesn't publicly break with Starmer over the veterans issue. This is a cabinet in total freefall. Ministers aren't defending the Prime Minister anymore. They're protecting their own political survival. And every hour Starmer stays silent, the rebellion grows stronger. But here's the part that could cause a constitutional crisis that makes everything we've seen so far look small. Leaked documents obtained by The Telegraph show that Starmer's team talked about using the Civil Contingencies Act 2004 to limit royal public statements during national emergencies. The documents, marked confidential PMIs only, outline a legal plan to basically silence the monarchy if it keeps doing what Downing Street calls political interference. If these documents are real, and legal experts say the wording suggests they definitely are, then Starmer just declared war on the Crown itself. Think about what that means for Britain's whole constitutional system. The monarchy has survived for over 1,000 years by staying out of everyday politics while holding strong soft power. Prime ministers come and go. The Crown stays, but Starmer is trying to change that balance completely. He's trying to silence the one institution most Britons trust more than Parliament. According to a YouGov poll released 2 hours ago, 68% of voters trust the royal family to act in Britain's best interests. Only 23% trust the government. Starmer isn't just fighting a political battle. He's fighting against the emotional heart of British identity itself. And the documents supposedly show he knows he's losing. One part reads, "Without decisive action to contain royal messaging, this government faces an existential threat to its authority." The optics of that would be absolutely devastating if proven true. A prime minister so desperate to hold on to power that he'll attack the monarchy to stop criticism. Even hardcore Labour supporters would find it hard to defend that. Meanwhile, Reform UK and the Conservatives smell blood in the water, and they're circling for the kill. Nigel Farage held a press conference in front of the Cenotaph War Memorial at 10 a.m. this morning. The symbolism was perfect. Britain's monument to fallen soldiers. Farage standing with 40 military veterans, Union Jacks everywhere, and his message was brutally effective. Prince William spoke for every decent Briton yesterday. He spoke for our veterans. He spoke for our values. He spoke for Britain herself. And Starmer's response, silence, panic, and now, according to reports, an attempt to silence the monarchy itself. That tells you everything you need to know about this government's priorities. No shouting, no insults, just quiet patriotic anger that reaches millions. Reform UK's membership has shot up 180% in 18 hours. The party's phone lines are jammed with former Labour voters wanting to join. Major donors who once backed Labour are now writing 6-figure checks to Reform UK. Business leaders who stayed neutral are now openly supporting Farage. This isn't a protest movement anymore. It's a real political revolution happening in real time. Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch, speaking from Conservative campaign headquarters, was just as devastating. When the future king has to remind the government of its duty to veterans, something has gone terribly wrong. Mr. Starmer has lost the moral authority to govern. The polls tell a story of complete political collapse. Labour has fallen from 38% 2 weeks ago to 29% this morning. The Conservatives have risen to 34%. Reform UK stands at 19%, their highest rating ever. For the first time in modern history, it's a real three-way race, and all the momentum is against Starmer. The next 48 hours are extremely important and could shape Britain's future for decades. Tomorrow morning, Prince William is set to visit the Royal British Legion headquarters for what was meant to be a simple patronage event. Palace sources say he's now planning to make a formal statement about veterans' welfare. If he doubles down on his criticism of government policy, Starmer faces an impossible choice: respond and risk looking petty and angry at the future king. Stay silent and watch his government's credibility collapse completely. Either way, he loses. King Charles is set to meet with the Prime Minister for their weekly meeting on Tuesday. Constitutional rules require the meeting, but many sources say it will be the most tense meeting between a monarch and a prime minister since Margaret Thatcher's fights with the palace in the 1980s. One Buckingham Palace insider told The Times, "His Majesty will make his views very clear about the government's duty to veterans. It won't be pleasant for Mr. Starmer." And here's what nobody is talking about yet, but should scare Downing Street. The Archbishop of Canterbury, spiritual leader of the Church of England, is reportedly preparing his own statement supporting Prince William's position. The Church hasn't stepped into political matters this directly since the Thatcher era. If the Archbishop publicly supports the royal family against the government, Starmer loses the moral and spiritual authority that every British Prime Minister depends on. This crisis is now bigger than immigration policy or housing problems. It's about whether Britain's elected government can survive a public fight with the monarchy. History suggests it cannot. The last time a British government truly fought the crown was 1936 during the abdication crisis. The government won that battle, but Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin's reputation never recovered. Starmer is facing similar danger with far less public support. At the center of it all stands a prime minister who looks more and more desperate, alone, and out of touch with the country he says he leads. So here's the question tearing Britain apart tonight. Did Starmer just end his own career by going to war with Prince William? Or can he somehow survive the worst crisis any Labour leader has faced in 40 years? What do you think happens when the palace decides to fight back? Does Starmer quit within a week? Or does he try to hold on to power and destroy what's left of Labour's credibility? Put your answer in the comments below because this is the biggest political story in Britain right now, and we need to hear from you. And if this constitutional earthquake shocked you as much as it shocked us, share this video with everyone who needs to see what's really happening inside Westminster and Buckingham Palace. The mainstream media won't give you the full truth because they're scared of upsetting Downing Street. But we'll tell you exactly what's happening. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because tomorrow we're breaking the story about what King Charles said in that emergency palace meeting. Trust me, you won't believe.